how long would you look into an empty room? At some point, you would turn around and just go somewhere else. And that's what happened on that one day on the couch, is something just stopped looking into an empty room. It just turned around. And
with this third instance, the losing of yourself, that you started experiencing the world in yet a different way. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious what that different way is.
Well, it was experiencing world. It wasn't necessarily a perceptual shift like the last two I said. In both of those other experiences, I had transcended self. In the first experience I described, I transcended ego and self. And the second one, that was also a transcended self. But there was still I came to see that to transcend self, and which when you do that, you know that certainly ego is sort of a useful and mostly useless fiction, you know that. But when we transcend something, it's not the same as it's falling away. Mm-hmm. That's what I realized, is when it fell away, what fell away was this sort of, another way to speak about it was like the self-referencing sort of turn or arc of consciousness that tends to reference, and usually what it's referencing is ego, is the image, the idea, the story, the process. And then when the ego's not really a big part of what's happening inside, it's like this turn of consciousness is orienting back towards itself. So it could be quietness, it could be peace, it could be a whole host of nice experiences or not so nice experiences. But there's this, there's this turning inward. I don't really know how. It's like consciousness doing a U-turn or something. And then somewhere along the line, the U-turn just stops. And it stops because there's really nothing there for it to look at. There's no process going on. There's just nothing there. You know, like how long would you look into an empty room? At some point, you would turn around and just go somewhere else. And that's what happened on that one day on the couch, is something just stopped looking into an empty room. It just turned around. And so it's not like a perceptual shift. It's more like, for quite a while, it was kind of an oddity. I would even say to myself, it's strange, there's no process. There's no process going on. There's no... not that I can't use, like, say, deductive logic or things like that, but I mean, no, like, emotional process. There's no working something out because there's nothing there to do it, which doesn't mean that, I'm emotionally perfect, or I don't mean to project ideas like that, but there's just, it's like the understandings just come of themselves. So I can just pose a question, and the question, I don't even work with it. I wouldn't even be able to work with it anymore. It's just, if I have a question, it's just there. And then at some point, an insight that's a resolution of the question just comes up. And there's no, at least, discernible process. Perhaps in the unconscious level there is, but consciously it's just kind of life without a process.
Now, Adya, here in this conversation, when you were talking about these awakening moments, markers, turning points in your life, you actually were quite moved, emotionally moved. I mean, yeah. I'm here with you, so I can see it in your face, yeah. Hear it in your voice. And what's going on for you that you've had this?
That's actually a really good question, Tammy, because I don't actually know. And the reason I say that is because, I don't talk about this stuff a lot, but I do share it when I think it's useful. And in the early days, shortly after this stuff, it would create a kind of emotion because there's a kind of poignancy and significance. It's like the deepest jewel you have, you're sharing with somebody. And it means, it's more meaningful to you than you could ever describe. But for years, I would say the better part of 10 or 15 years, I haven't really gotten emotional when I've described it. So it was as much a surprise to me as it is, to you or to anybody else. It's, I don't know why I felt that, but the poignancy of it is what I was really experiencing. And I think I just felt how valuable it is to me. How valuable, not the past, but how it's living now. That, it's almost like, maybe it has to do with age also. It's like, almost like feeling like the older you get, you realize the gifts that you've been given and you appreciate them. It's a different time of life. I'm 52 instead of 32. Maybe that's some of it too, that I really appreciate some of what's occurred for me, and I think I'm also humbled by it. And I don't mean that like in a I'm humble sense, but I just mean I think I'm completely at peace now with my humanity, where I didn't struggle with my humanity after these things, but I don't know, now I feel, these kind of experiences can kind of make you feel, it's going to say another paradox, kind of strangely at one with, but in another sense apart, because you're experiencing or perceiving something that a lot of people around you aren't. So whenever you experience anything, there's an apartness, a little bit of an apartness to it. But now, that's part of this ongoing awakening verb, and maturing really is, I think, of what it is. That I'm just very comfortable with the entire experience of existing and the human experience. And I think poignancy and appreciation is something about our limited humanness that feels those emotions. And perhaps because I'm even more and more and more comfortable and appreciative of the humanity with all of its, frailty and all the rest, perhaps that's a reason, that's what it just feels like that. I'm trying to give words to something that's hard to describe, because like I said, I haven't felt emotional like that about it for quite a long time. I certainly don't mind it.
Discover on-demand videos and docuseries, explore a full schedule of daily live classes, and become part of an incredible community. At Sounds True One, we invite you inward to find your way, your way.